Om. In this video, we're going to have a discussion about the number 8. I've had a request from a subscriber, and I want to take the time to make a video about this number, which I have a lot of information. In fact, I have so much information on the number 8, as I am an 8 life path, from both studies and observations. This may have a part 2. So the intention for this video is to give you the gist of what you need to know about the number 8, and for that, we're going to start right away at the sequence of 1 through 9, which is the core sequence of the entire existence. All comes back to 1 through 9. So in the context of 8, 8 is the number of integrate. Integrate, look at the word integrate, has the word 8 in it. 8 is where the form, a structure of 4, reaches the ceiling, where the form has to be now integrated. So 8's role in the sequence of 1 through 9, that's why everybody has to cross through 8. 8 is also Saturn. They say in astrology that Saturn rules this world. Everybody has to cross through 8 in order to leave. The renunciants, the monks, the ascetics, even they say the Tamil Siddhas, the South Indian mysticism, those people have to come back. And we can see very clearly in numerology why. Renunciation is 7. 8 is bringing that knowledge back into the world and integrating it. It's one thing to have the knowledge, one thing to belief systems, but what is 8? 8 is the test. Integration is not just a psychological thing. It is, can you demonstrate this knowledge? Can you demonstrate this belief system? Can you demonstrate this in circumstances where it is maybe even harder to do the right thing? You have to be able to demonstrate. Look at the word demonstrate also as the 8. Demonstrate, integrate. That's why 8 is a number of perseverance. There's actually many reasons for this. So I'm going to try to contain myself to the core. There's some really good gems I'm going to drop in this video. So if you have a curiosity about number 8, there's going to be some stuff in your not going to hear anybody else talking about. So 8, let's look at it from the perspective of the Kundalini. When God, or spirit, which is the Kundalini, descends down into the world, okay? 1 is the North Pole, 7 is the South Pole. Everything exists between 1 and 7, okay? This is the primary poles of the what we call as the matrix, or the existence. 1 is the primary perspective of looking at the existence from the beginning, from the top down. 7 is the perspective of looking at the existence as from the perspective of the reflection. That's why the 7th house is opposite of the 1st house, and it's through the 7th house, which guess where's exalted in the 7th house? Saturn the 8th, where we experience all of our karma. Because 7 gives you the perspective of the root chakra. So the Kundalini comes down, hits the root chakra, where the 7 stands underneath. It understands, it stands underneath. It's viewing from the unconscious. It is perspective of the unconscious. And the energy now begins to redirect back up the spine. This is why they said in the Bible that God rested on the 7th day. It's not that he literally rested. It's all metaphors. It's all a code. The energy hits the root chakra and it has to now redirect back up. So in that hitting of the root chakra, there's a pause. And through that pause, stabilization takes place before being redirected. And what's the stabilization? The 7th house, natural 7th house, is what? Libra. What's the symbol Libra? 2 scales. The energy here is balancing out and preparing itself for a redirection. What's the preparation? We are moving from the material consciousness to material consciousness. Now we're going to start the spiritual consciousness, defined as the descension of the Kundalini and the ascension of the Kundalini. 8 is the energy that starts at the root chakra, and like imagine a hand comes down and has to pull all that higher awareness, the unconscious, the soul, the spirit, whatever you want to call, up through each of the chakra systems, one by one, layer by layer. Everywhere that Kundalini touches, it cannot go further until the lessons are integrated. And the way to integrate is through demonstrate. You have to demonstrate. And that's how you get what? Wisdom. Wisdom is the application of knowledge. That's why number 8 is the elder, because elders are what? They are the people who have gone through all the lessons, they have applied all their knowledge, and now they have a whole bunch of wisdom that they can now turn around and guide and share with the younger generations. 8s mature later in life because 8 has to integrate the entire system. But what is 8 trying to do? 8, integrate, is trying to create something that is so bulletproof that it stands the test of time, which is why 8 is a number of immortality, because what 8 creates cannot be destroyed. They say the same thing in astrology in a slightly different way. They say whatever Saturn gives you, no other planet can take away, and thereby declaring that Saturn is the most powerful planet. And Saturn is actually the only one who has the Ishwara. The planets all have their names. You have Surya, the sun, Chandra, the moon. Shanishwara. Ishwara is a connotation to Ishwara, which is the God who can control. So Saturn is the planet who controls this place, because Saturn is the one who decides whether you leave or not, whether you have completed your integration. That is why Saturn, the 8 vibration, is a very serious one. Serious in the context of these people aren't really ones who are going to go and play and have fun. That's not what their life is about. Now, it depends on where it appears, granted. But 8 vibration is one who is here to take care of business. If you have like an 8 life path, let's say, this shows somebody who is in a milestone lifetime. If you acknowledge that we have many, many simultaneous, some they call them past, all time is all present. So all the lifetimes may be happening in different time areas, but everything is actually happening simultaneously. And you will have a lot of bleed throughs into this life, especially if you are an 8 life path, from different lifetimes that you have to integrate unfinished business in those. And that is what an 8 life path is really, really for. You have a bunch of individual lives where you play these specific individual roles. In an 8 lifetime, you are here to integrate all those different understandings and all the unresolved things, because 8 is the ceiling where all the trajectories hit and have to start to now integrate into one unified form. That is what 8 is. And that's why 8 is also associated with the 8th house. What is the 8th house? Sudden crisis, sudden upheavals. Because 8 is a number that will shake things in order to integrate. If you have stagnant energy where it's very stubborn and fixed, in order to blow that up, in order to blow the pieces up so it can resettle back into what? Truth. What is truth? My definition of truth is that which does not change. 8's trying to establish you in truth on every level with those no gray areas, because 8 knows that if it skips a step, that foundation will eventually crumble. That's why they say if you give someone power before they're ready, it will destroy them. Krishna says the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita in a different way. It's not verbatim, but something along the lines of, if I want to destroy somebody, I'll give them money. Money is power. 8 is associated with money. Not the only vibration associated with money, but 8 is associated with the aspect of money that is power. Power to influence, power to do. So 8th house is crisis. Now, if we look at the Chaldean mathematics of the number 8, the single digit 8, which is written formally as 08, if you look in the inner aura of the 8, which is the path of maturation, you find the number 16-7. 16-7, among other things, is the number of survival mode, is a number of crisis. 8 in the 8th house. So in my system in numeroastrology, all the different houses are all having a relationship with the vibrations. The numbers are the pure vibrations, and astrology is confining those numbers to a circle, 360 degrees. And like this, all the numbers correspond in their special ways to the planets, the houses, and so on and so forth. So crisis, we can see vibrationally, mathematically represented in number 8 through the number 16, which is an 88-16, which is the number of the karma burner. Now, I mentioned before about 8 and where the energy integrates and where the form has to be integrated. 8, as a behavioral characteristic, are somebody who has a very, very high awareness, what they're supposed to develop, of trajectory. 8 can be the are you sure energy, where it can be someone who is damned if you do, damned if you don't, meaning they can be very, very cynical. because 8s are very, very aware of consequences. You also look at Scorpio, and what do you see in Scorpio? You have a symbol of the scorpion, which, by the way, has a what? A pronounced stinger tail, which is representing the root chakra, which is where 7 left off. And then it goes to what? An eagle. Indicating what? Eagle is what? They fly in the sky. The energy is going up. You're moving from the root chakra, which then culminates into the head, which is where 9 picks up, which we can talk about in a different time. 9 is when you become. 8 integrates, 9 becomes. 9 is the opening of the third eye. 8 is getting the energy to that point. So it's represented in Scorpio themes, it's represented in eighth house themes, and we haven't even really gone into the mathematics and the vibrational potential, which I'll start segueing into now. Number 8, when they are young, by the way, real quick, Scorpio, we talked about the scorpion to eagle. That's why number 8s are also associated with, it's not, I would say more precisely, it's not that's why. It also reflects that number 8 is associated with rags to riches. 8s need to appreciate the power before they have it. If you give someone power, they don't have a respect for that power. They don't have an appreciation for that power. They don't know what it's like not to have power. They're going to most likely, not all, but without almost 99.99% will probably end up abusing that power, which is actually part of the 8 lesson as well. I know a person who's born on the 8th day, that day that adds to 8, and part of their lesson has actually been around abusing their power. And the 8 comes around, goes around, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and it's doing this until it can do what? Until it can integrate into a coherence. That is how it creates the infinity. In that little point where it's balanced in the middle. Okay? Now, you're not going to hear anybody else talking about these things. I guarantee you. I haven't seen anybody, and I've studied a lot. Maybe there are, but this is all new as far as my experience so far. So, rags to riches. 8 starts, people will typically start without power in a state of powerlessness, and then eventually rise, provided they act and live with integrity. 8s have to do the right thing when no one's looking. 8s have to do the right thing when it's hard. And that is why, again, 8 has association with perseverance, because it requires detachment in order to be able to do what they do. Look at the symbol of Saturn. What is Saturn? The depiction of Saturn is a thick, coarse hair. He looks malnourished. He has this, looks like almost like death. What does that represent? Saturn is sort of dead to the outside world. He gets his nourishment from the inside. His form is representing, he has a certain detachment from the world. This is what this is the attitude and the perspective the 8s have to develop in order to do what they have to do, because 8, again, is a serious vibration. It's here to do work. I don't know if you saw this, the light just changed. I don't know why, but it just changed when I said that. So 8s need perseverance because, remember, they're integrating the entire system. Now, I said 16 is a path of maturation. I said survival mode. 16 is also a number of emotional detachment. 16 vibration can be a very, very cold number because they know very well what it's like to lose. 8s have the same thing. 8s as a path of maturation. Now let's go back into Chaldean, because Chaldean is the precision. The numerology is the precision. It's the core frequencies. 8s from a young age, because 8 is in the outer aura. What it shows is 8s will try to assert themselves and to do what? Dominate. Look at the word dominate, the 8. That's coming from the 8 and the 15-6 in the essence. Both these together creates a potential for the psychopath. Not that all 8s are psychopaths, but they have the ability to turn it off, and they have the ability to dominate. So 8s will try to appear to be very, very powerful and guarded. Look at Saturn, it has the rings, supposedly, around it, which shows that 8s are very, very guarded people because they do not want to be perceived as weak. Because they know very, very well power dynamics. They have natural attunement to power dynamics, especially if they're born on a day that adds to an 8. Also because of 16-7 is in the background. 16-7 we mentioned is crisis. 16-7 is emotional attachment. 16-7 is anxiety. The 1, the ego, is constantly having to bend to the 6, its opposite. 6 is unity, 1 is individualism. You can't have individuals in a unity, and because 6 is in the inner digit, 6 is in control in the driver's seat. So 1 is constantly afraid it's going to lose itself. It's going to, oh my God, I'm going to be humbled somehow. I've got to make all the right decisions. I have to assert myself. I have to protect myself because I'm actually afraid. That is the early stages of 8. The path of maturation for the 8, I mentioned, is detached. It is also having the ability to surrender. 8s have to establish themselves in truth. That's why I said before, integrity in truth. They have to be integrating truth constantly. As the 7, they need to be aware. They are not somebody who can walk around in denial. 8s have the opposite agenda. They have to seek out. They have to use crisis and the anxiety to find out what it is. So there's a thing in Vedic tradition where they say 8, Saturn, is one who can teach you about self-esteem. He can teach you about anxiety and have the key to overcoming it. 8s, through the path of 16-7, one of the success codes for here is meditation. Because 7, they thrive with meditation. 16-7 is, if not, the most transcendental of all, because one is when the ego is surrendered to unity consciousness and achieves the highest understanding. So 8s, when they are not paying attention, they're not nurturing higher awareness, they're going to do what? They're going to assert themselves and they're going to fall. They're going to have some sort of loss, humbling. Look at the 16 tarot card. 16 is what? It is a man falling from a very narrow tower, crown first, falling to the ground. What does that show? The tower is the 1. The ground it's built upon is the 6. The lightning bolt striking the tower, causing the crash, is the 7. What 16-7 says is, if you try to assert your ego and you try to build this ego on the ground of 6, which is about unity, the lightning strike of 7, which is truth, is going to smash it to the ground. When the 8s try to impose their ego based upon power, based upon not paying attention, not being established in truth, not being established in integrity, they're going to experience humblings. And what does this sound like? 8, which is Saturn, is the planet of what? Karma and suffering. This is why. It's because of the numerology. The planet is personifying the numbers. The numbers are fundamental. The numbers, which are vibrations, are fundamental and later personified into the planets. And remember, they are in context, in the case of astrology, in 360 degrees. So Saturn is the planet that will give you suffering because is 8th house is there. But because of the 16-7, it will humble you. It could be through loss of status. It could be through loss of loved ones, loss through relationships, loss of purpose, feeling like you don't know what to do with yourself. These are all lessons, that a spectrum of lessons that the 8 may or may not have to go through depending on where they are in their development. Because this may not be the first life where they were an 8. 8 as a life path doesn't guarantee that you're going to be an elder. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to integrate. It simply says you are in the season of integration. That is a core theme, which means if you are carrying the 8 vibration in your name and your birthday, you should be very, very careful about what you do, because that energy, because you are in the season of integration, is going to come back very, very fast like a boomerang. Because it's not about putting it off. It's about integrating now. So what 8 will do is it will put you on these time loops. If you are, say, you're in your process of integration, you get stuck at a certain area. 8 will loop these circumstances. Maybe it's you keep attracting the same person, or you keep finding yourself in a job where it's the same story. The boss is a certain way, you get treated a certain way, whatever. 8 will loop these circumstances on an infinite loop until you integrate. And you integrate when you demonstrate. You demonstrate that whatever knowledge that you have acquired through your paying attention experience, that you're able to actually apply it, especially when it is hard to do so. Meaning you have to go against the natural tendencies, and you may have to go against society. 8s can be very, very much outcasts and loners. There is a teacher who has a book called The Science of Fortune. I have a lot of respect for this guy because he says a lot of things about the numbers that I haven't seen anybody else talk about. He said a lot of things that I have realized through my own studies that nobody else talking about. Then I go and find his book, and he's saying the same thing. So I have a lot of respect for this guy. And in his book, he talks about how 8s are actually even more of loners than the number 7, which is associated with the monks. Why? Well, look at the numbers. 7 has a 5 inside of it. It means 7 actually is a very curious, energetic, social. They want to exchange. They want to talk. They want to teach. They want to share. They may not present themselves like that right away, but deep down, that's what they want. Look at the 8. It's got a 16-7 inside of it. 7 pulls them to be very, very cold and detached because that is what they have to do in order to do the integration. If they become too attached, it gets blown up. So 8s have to put their heads down. They have to do the right thing. They have to do all the mundane things because Saturn, in the context of the planets, is the servant. What does that mean? 1's the king, 2's the queen, 3 is the guru of morals and the inner guru of inner joy. Or 6 is Venus, also sometimes the princess, but also the guru of the demons, meaning the guru of the material pleasures. Guru of the inside, the spiritual, Jupiter. Venus, the guru of the matter. They want to make sure everything's pleasant. You have 5, Mercury, the prince, the project manager for the king. Also sometimes the minister. 7 is the renunciate, the ascetic. And 4 is the advancing army. It is the spies, and it is the one who is seeking the next land, the next ground. K2, 7 is the land that's already been conquered. 4 is where we're going. Now 8 in all of this, 9's the general. 8 is the one who has to clean the clothes, keep the houses clean. They have to go and harvest the food. They have to do all the mundane tasks to sustain the stage for everyone else. They are the tortoise in the Vedic mythology, cosmology. 8 is this giant tortoise that the entire world rests upon. What it is symbolizing is what? Tortoise is what? Slow moving. Long-term trajectory. They know that if I just keep this pace and put my head down, that I'm going to somehow beat the hare. That's the story of the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady. And through that, I create a foundation, a support, where I can do all the mundane tasks that need to get done that nobody else wants to do, but they need. The general and the king, they need food. They need clothes. They need somewhere to live. They need the place to be clean like this. This is the 8 vibration. So this is a long video. I can assure you there's a lot more stuff. This is actually just the basics of 8. There is a lot more advanced things we can talk about. If you want to see a part 2, if you made it this far, I'm still a little bit under the weather, so you have to excuse me. If you want to see a part 2 on 8, to go deeper into the 8 and also some more specifics, leave a comment under the video and we'll see what happens. Okay, so if you want to see my services and also you want to visit my publication, The Golden Sun, where I have all my archives, blogs, podcasts, videos, all in one place, all for free. You can access the archives. Go to my website, amunra.com, that's AMMUNR.com, where you can access my services, but also my publication on Substack called The Golden Sun. Questions, comments, leave them underneath this video. Make sure to give it a like if you found it useful. And until next time, happy manifesting. God bless. Om.